Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade. Well, in this one guys, I'm going to make a small guide for Retribution Paladins for the pre-patch for all of you guys that want to push some Mythic Plus score and do some raiding in this pre-patch. So I hope you guys like that small Machinima I made at the start of the video. I just wanted to add some comedy to it, you know, since we lost corruptions, we lost our uncapped AoE, and we basically lost a lot, but we also gained a bit of power, you know. Okay, so let's start. This is going to be a really fast guide. I'm going to start with general changes that happened to Retribution Paladins. So one of the most important ones is we got Consecration. Consecration is basically uncapped AoE, although it does little damage. The only thing you have to know about this ability is that it no longer gives us holy power, so actually using it is kind of tricky because you want to use it whenever there's 3 or more targets, but you don't want to use it when you have wings. So if you have wings, it's better to use any other holy power builder and just use Divine Storm instead of using Consecration. But if you must use Consecration when you have wings up, try to use it when you don't have anything to press. That means like all your spenders and builders are on cooldown. Then it's a good moment to press the button. Okay, another change that we have is we have Hammer of Wrath is now baseline. And the only downside to this is that we only have Hammer of Wrath rank 1, which doesn't allow us to use Hammer of Wrath whenever we use wings. We get that ability at level 58, so don't worry about it. I know it's clunky at the moment, but whenever we get to level cap in Shadowlands, we'll be able to use it as normally. Other abilities are basically filler effects and don't really have an impact in our DPS. These abilities being Shield of Righteous, Turn Evil, Word of Glory, and the Auras. Auras basically just add some defensive layers, and basically they made 2 passives that we had before into Auras. And at the moment I think Retribution Aura is still bugged, because if you use wings, and then someone dies while you have wings, let's say you have 20 seconds left of wings, it will proc the Retribution Aura thing and you will have a 8-second timer window for wings. So it actually nerfs you. So I recommend using not Divine Aura, Devotion Aura all the time. It's just the best one at the moment till we have confirmation that they fixed Retribution Aura. Okay guys, so now let's go to the talents. Okay guys, let's talk about talents. So this is gonna be a really fast overview of the best talents for Retribution Paladins in this pre-patch. So for the first row we got Zeal if you're doing AoE content like let's say Mythic Plus, because it does add to your damage. Doesn't matter what type of damage you're doing, you're always auto attacking, and it doesn't require you to do anything special. You just use your judgment and you get the zeal charges for single target situations. So this means raids, mostly raids where there's like no other targets than a boss and maybe some ads. You can pick Righteous Verdict or Execution Sentence. Both are really powerful in single target situations. If you need if there's a burst window for a boss fight, Execution Sentence is better. If you need more sustained single target damage, Righteous Verdict is your go-to. So on the row level 25, Imperium Power is the best talent pick here all around, because as you see from this build, we're using Divine Purpose, and you can get Divine Purpose procs of the Imperium Power from your talent, and you can get also Divine Purpose procs of the Imperium Power from your Azerite traits, which is really powerful. And at the moment we don't need the extra holy power from Blade of Wrath and Fist of Justice, Fires of Justice, excuse me. So that's the option here on the row 25, Imperium Power. So let's go to the next one. This is mostly utility based rows. For level 30 row I recommend taking Fist of Justice, because no one actually uses Repentance at the moment. You don't CC stuff, you just kill stuff. And Blinding Light can be a nice option if you're doing big packs and need to use a pseudo interrupt on a lot of caster mobs. Other than that, I recommend just taking Fist of Justice. More stuns, always good. Okay, so for row level 35, we got 2 options here, Unbreakable Spirit and Cavalier. Depending on the type of fight you're doing, you might want more movement speed for Cavalier. You want to maybe go soak something or help someone that's far away, you may take this ability. I mean this talent. And if you're like doing mostly Mythic Plus content, I recommend taking Unbreakable Spirit because you will have your defensive more often, and this also increases your damage because you can make your Shield of Vengeance explode more often if you're using it actively. So those are our two options in the row level 35. So for row level 40, so this is basically a new row because we got a lot of options here, although some of them are not that good. So Divine Purpose is our best option here in all types of content, single target and AoE Mythic Plus content, because you can get a lot of procs of Divine Purpose. It can proc off your Empyrean Power, it can proc off your Empyrean Power from your Azerite traits, it can proc from itself. You get procs on procs, and it's really fun reactive gameplay. So Holy Avenger is basically trash. It's not a good ability. It has a 3-minute cooldown, which at the moment actually lines up with Crusade. But the problem is you're giving up a lot of Divine Purpose procs by picking this thing, and we don't actually need the triple Holy Power generation. This reminds me of Memory of Lucid Dreams, and no one takes that as a major, so don't take Holy Avenger. It's really bad. Okay, so Zerafin. Zerafin was one of the things I wanted to test a lot in this pre-patch, but it turns out it's not really good because you have to maintain this buff. It costs 3 holy power. It doesn't last for its whole duration. So it only lasts for 15 seconds and it has a 45-second cooldown. So it has a lot of downtime. You don't have it as much as often as you could say Inquisition, that was more consistent damage. So Zeraphim gives you a lot of burst, but it also costs you like the Divine Purpose talent, which is just so fun to play with. So in this row, I recommend for all types of content taking Divine Purpose. So let's go to the next row, row level 45. And Selfless Healer, I think it's the best option, at least for PVE content, because you don't actually need the Healing Hands part that buffs Word of Glory in PVE content. You have healers, and you can sustain yourself very well with just Selfless Healer, not wasting Holy Power on Word of Glory, because you always want to use your Holy Power to deal damage, not sustain yourself. So Selfless Healer just stacks up to 4 times and makes your next Flash of Light heal for a lot, and also make it free, so you're only wasting the global cooldown you use to heal yourself. Just the Vengeance is really bad, don't ever take it, it's a really bad talent. For 5 Holy Power the heal isn't worth it. Okay, let's go to the last row. So I played with the 3 of these options, and from them and the Sims that I did, Crusade is the best one, because Crusade synergizes really well with our Azerite Essence Visions of Perfection. It gives you a longer window of Visions of Perfection, and since we have Divine Purpose now, in that Visions of Perfection window you can get a lot of procs and just stack this the small Crusade up really fast, if you're lucky. Sanctified Wrath is at the moment really bad because it doesn't stack with our Light's Decrees Azerite traits, so the duration doesn't actually increase. If you see, I have picked Sanctified Wrath and my wings are still only 25 seconds, which is really bad because it's not adding any, it's like not adding half of its effect as a talent at the moment. So don't take Sanctified Wrath, it's not good. Unless they fix that, that the duration increase, it won't be a good talent this pre-patch. So the other one is Final Reckoning. Final Reckoning was really good on paper, it sounded really good, but the more I played with it, the more I saw that it's not really good, because it doesn't synergize with Visions of Perfection, because our Visions of Perfection window is smaller than if we picked Crusade. It also doesn't have like a big AoE component. Like the main on use is AoE and it's uncapped, but the small part, the passive, is only single target damage. So although it sounds really good on paper, it's actually not very good at the moment. I'm sure it's going to be a really powerful talent when we get to Shadowlands content and level cap, but at the moment just take Crusade. Crusade is a safe way to go. It's really powerful, it's really fun to have all that haste and extra damage. Okay guys, those are our talent options for the different types of content you want to do this pre-patch. So let's go now to Azerite traits and Azerite essences. Okay guys, let's talk about Azerite essences first. So one of the main Azerite essences that we're gonna take is Visions of Perfection. Always take Visions of Perfection as major because it adds a lot to your consistent damage. Those procs are now more consistent. If you manage to get some Divine Purpose procs with Imperium Powers procs as well, you can stack that up really fast in the small window of 9 seconds that you get from the proc from Visions of Perfection. So it's a really powerful Azerite essence at the moment. The next Azerite essence you want to get is Conflict and Strife. Conflict and Strife is just good. It adds flat versatility to yourself. You don't have to do anything to proc this thing. Just play the game normally and you will get free about 5% extra damage. So the next one you want to get is Memory of Lucid Dreams. As I said before, versatility is pretty good at the moment for Retribution Paladins. Since we're no longer stacking Mastery, our stat weights are really different now than before the pre-patch. And the proc from Memory of Lucid Dreams is pretty nice to have. Your Holy Power, you get refunded 50% of the Holy Power usage that you did on your last ability. And you also get a nice heal and versatility proc, which is good. Okay, the next one you want to get is Breath of the Dying. Breath of the Dying is still one of the most powerful things that you can get as an Azerite essence because it procs a lot whenever something is dying, and since we're using a lot of versatility at the moment in our builds, the damage it deals gets increased by it, so it's a pretty decent Azerite essence. Other replacements for example, Breath of the Dying can be Crucible of Flame if you don't have Breath of the Dying. You can also use Blood of the Enemy instead of Memory of Lucid Dreams, but the ones that are like set in stone are Visions of Perfection and Conflict and Strife. Those are really good to have and give you a lot of damage all around. So let's now go to Azerite traits. So for my main build, I'm using triple Light's Decrease with double Avenger's Mights and 1 Imperium Power just to get extra procs of the Divine Storm. You can also use triple Avenger's Might and double Light's Decrease in situations where maybe you only have 5 targets most of the time, because Avenger's Might will buff the damage from your Divine Storm, but since Divine Storm is capped to only 5 targets, it will give you more consistent damage on that number of targets. But whenever there's more stuff to hit, for example, there's a lot of small adds in Siege of Borealis, there's a lot of small adds in Shrine of the Storm, you might want to go for stacking Light's Decrease, because Light's Decree is not capped to 5 targets, it's only soft capped to 20 targets. So you're doing a lot of AoE damage on them, even though the nerf on our AoE cap. So that's our Azerite traits in essence, guys. Now let's go to the stat weights and let's talk about some other stuff that you can get. For example, some extra rings or gems and enchants. Okay guys, so I used a lot of Simcraft to try to find out what's the best setup that I can get, and for me at least my best setup was the next. So for stat weights, strength is, weapon DPS is first, then strength, then versatility is similar to critical strike. After that you want to get some haste, and mastery is our lowest stat. It's so weird that mastery now is our lowest stat, but I kind of understand it because since the pre-patch hit, there was something that is called diminishing returns on secondary stats. So whenever you get 30% of secondary stat from stats, like not percentage, like direct percentage gains, the stat will give you 10% less of its value, up to 50% less of its value if you keep stacking it. So it's not really good to just stack one specific stat. That rhymes. Okay, so as you can see, our stat pool is more diversified. We have a lot of critical strike, we have some versatility, we have haste, mastery, and we are not stacking anything. Another thing that's really good to consider is that item level is king again, because since strength is so valuable now, so primary stat is really powerful. Using the highest item level pieces you have is probably going to be the best go-to option. On that same theme, since main stat is really powerful at the moment, you might want to get the Kraken's Eye gem and stack it with another Leviathan's Eye strength gem. That one gives 18 strength and the other one gives 12. So stack 2 of those and you should be great. For enchantments, the only one that's different would be the weapon enchant. We are no longer using Masterful Navigation. We're now using Force Multiplier because it's the only enchantment that actually gives you main stat on top of some secondary stats. So that's a really nice enchantment to have for your weapon. For rings, you can use basically anything. You can use, if you're missing haste, put some haste there. If you're missing some versatility, just to make your stat reach look really neat, you can just add any type of enchantment to those slots. So for special equipment, I can recommend you getting the trinket from Underrot. It's really powerful because it synergizes really well with our 1.5 minute crusade. It's basically perfect because you will always have it for each crusade. Other than that, you might want to get the Mechanome rings from Junkyard and from Workshop. You get one of the rings from each of the dungeons. If you're lucky, you might get the one that gives you haste. This is the best one by far because it gives you free stats, like about 3% haste from just the ring passive. And it's really powerful because you can just put those rings up and combine them with the one that whenever you hit someone from behind, you get the proc, or whenever you get hit three different abilities, you get the proc. And this proc is up 99% of the time, so it's it's basically permanent 3% extra haste, as long as you're doing what the ring tells you to do. So those are special equipment that you can like look for at the moment in the pre-patch. So guys, that should be it for this guide. I know it's really short, but there's not really much to talk about at the moment for Retribution Paladins. I will be making a guide whenever Shadowlands hits, whenever I test all the stuff, and whenever it's live. And yeah, it's a really good time for Retribution Paladins to do some keys to increase your score for pre-patch, your Mythic Plus Radar IO score, because people, whenever the Shadowlands hits and goes lives, are going to look for those scores to tell if you're a good player or not. So it's a good time to build up that score and get a spot in Mythic Plus groups. If you're doing a lot of pugging, it's gonna be good. It's also good to test stuff and look what other classes are doing and how they're how's their damage and all that good stuff, you know. So guys, that's the end of the guide. I hope you guys like this video. If you like it, like the video and subscribe to the channel. And that should be it. Thanks for watching.